Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on Triple BE and skills development, discussing why it matters and why it brings value to today's businesses. My name is Matimu Mashimbye, and I will be your facilitator for today's session. On behalf of Proudly SA EconoBEE joining us today, we are really excited to be unpacking the very strongly to skills development, not just as a compliance exercise, but as a powerful tool for growth, innovation, and sustainable transformation. So before we can start with the session, I just want to get some housekeeping stuff out of the way. Before we get started, just a few quick points. Today's session will run up until either 11:30 or 12 p.m. If you have any questions during the presentations, please type them in the chat box. We'll cover them in the Q&A session that will be following up towards the end. The session is being streamed live across multiple platforms. So a warm welcome as well to the guys who are joining us through Facebook, LinkedIn, X, and YouTube. Is often seen as an administrative burden, but in reality, it's an opportunity. Through skills development, businesses can not only improve their scorecards, but they can also unlock talent, boost productivity, and contribute to a meaningful economic growth in South Africa. That's what this webinar is all about, shifting the mindset from compliance to strategic advantage. So with me today, I have two speakers, Mr. Ndivhuwo Rambau, who's a director here at the EconoBEE and an expert in transformation strategies. He will be unpacking the Triple BE framework and how businesses can use it as a tool for growth and sustainability. We will also have Mr. Sipotlasin, who will provide us with real-world examples of how companies can actually turn skills development into a competitive advantage. But before we can start with the session, I would like to share a video from our Proudly SA that describes their mandate and what it is they help South African businesses with. A bit of a technical issue, but all is in line. Hold on just a minute there. Thank you.
There's a voice that is calling, loudly calling, day by day. There's a voice that is calling, loudly calling,
when others see impossibility.
It all started with a thought and then a seed in the garden, which grew into my very own farm that feeds the whole nation daily.
Cotton silk and a little bit of treasure, I create masterpieces that give South Africans an identity, comfort and confidence, because when you look good, you feel good.
From the factory workers to the warehouse and then over the seas, I want to show the world what proudly South African looks like. It all started with just some ink on paper and inspiration to bring people together. With my furniture, I now help create spaces that are beautiful, comfortable, and authentic to human light and connection.
I've always been driven by curiosity. It fueled my dreams to create automobiles that accelerate our nation into greater possibilities and the beauty of the unknown.
I was born into a rainbow nation. My life has been full of colors and mixed flavors. And when I started my bakery, I wanted to share the joy with the world and with South Africans in particular.
All I ever dreamt of was to be a bird and fly high, and now I have the wings to help others fulfill their dreams of flying high too.
But it can only be a dream until you make it a reality. All they need is your faith, your trust, your loyalty, your appreciation.
And most importantly,
Your support.
because supporting local businesses
Helps create jobs.
and secures our future.
South Africa, their future is in your hands. So what are you going to do about it? Be proudly South African. Buy local to create jobs.
Thank you so much, team, for that video. It's actually nice to understand how our businesses can actually be amplified through unity and also dedicated transformation. With that in mind, I want us to help me welcome our first speaker of the day, who's Mr. Ndivhuwo Rambau. May you please take the stage, man.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Good morning, my colleagues and everyone. I want to welcome you here to this presentation that we are having today. I would like to take this opportunity and thank the Proudly SA for giving us opportunity to go out there and reach out to the youth regarding BEE. In most cases, when we do BEE, we talk about a garage purchase. However, BEE is misunderstood by the nation as a whole. Because when you talk about BE, people think we're talking about enriching a certain group of people, but that is not the truth. So what I've done is that I've created a simple presentation which will align the targets and misunderstanding of BE and what it is supposed to be doing in the economy. I'm gonna share my screen with you guys. Okay, guys, I'm gonna share my screen with you just for us to go through the BE targets and overview of the targets. First of all, before we talk about anything, we need to understand why BE was implemented. We need to understand the government's viewpoint. There's extremely high unemployment that is supported by the states SA when they issue the states every quarter. Then we look at that our education needs a vast improvement because in most cases, we do have our Black brothers and sisters who are not qualified or educated enough to get those posts that will enable them to reach new standards in their life. And government realized that by implementing BEE, it will help small businesses to grow. Aside from helping these small businesses to grow, it will also allow some Black individuals to own and start their own businesses. Now, before we go any further, let's talk about the definition of Black people. Sorry about that. Before we go further, let's talk about the definition of Black people. It's a generic term for African, colors, and Chinese who are South African by citizenship or descent. And the reason why I put this slide on my presentation is because I also want to address what is happening out there in social media. When people come to us and say BE cater for only Black people, Now, you need to understand what is the definition of black. By black, we mean everyone who is African, Indian, colored, even Chinese, who are South African citizen by birth or by descent, or South African citizen by this relation before the 27th of April 1994. So now, when we talk about BEE, we need also to look at the EAP targets. Why the EAP targets? Because BEE takes the EAP targets and said, this is how the country is looking. Now, we want to implement a policy that will help the black people elevate themselves in terms of the economy. So now, when we're doing BEE, we do not take the EAP targets as they are, they get adjusted. If you look at the table in front of you, it shows the initial EAP targets from the Department of State. African female is 43.10%, African female is 37.60%. If you put that together, African male and female alone, they constitute 80% of South Africa. Now we go to the colored community where it constitutes 9% of South Africa. Then we go to the Indian community where it constitutes 2.6% of South Africa. Now we go to the white community there. I think there's a little bit error there in terms of numbers, but in terms of numbers, if you add these numbers, they will give you up to 91%.
Mr. Ndi, sorry to disturb, just move your presentation to the specific slide you are referring to.
Is it moving? Can you guys see the screen in front of you now?
Yes, I can see it. Please place it on presentation mode.
Is it visible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry about that. So now we look at the AP targets. After doing that, the AP targets get adjusted to the form whereby they end up as 100% for both African male, African female, Indian male, Indian female. So now, after all, we go and take out the white part and allow it to only focus on black people. Now, the reason why I had to show the adjusted EAP targets is because as part of this presentation is to go on and talk about the targets. Because when we go on, we talk to people about BEE, they come and say BEE is racist. And I love to give a clear content that there's nothing racist about BEE. BEE gives everyone an opportunity. Now, we need to understand the three types of entities that we have in South Africa. We have your EMEs, which is between 0 to 10 million. We have your QSEs, which are between 10 to 15 million. But if you look at those entities that I spoke about, they're also going to make it easier for black-owned companies and say, if you are 51% black-owned, you are automatically level 2 as an EME. If you are 100% black-owned, you are automatically level 1. However, if you do not have any black ownership as an EME, you will be an automatic level 4. So it doesn't discriminate anyone, regardless of the turnover you're making, regardless of the race. Now, when we look at your QSE, that's when it starts saying, fine, now we want to make this policy go on and act. As a QSE, you are making a turnover of between 10 to 15 million. You should be able to transform the country. Now they go again, they say 100% black owned leaves you at level 1, 51% or more black owned leaves you at level 2. However, if you are less than 51% as a QSE, you have to do all the BE activities. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you notice on my slide there at the end, at the right corner, I wrote sector specific. We have different sectors in South Africa. We have the codes of good practice, we have the ICT sector, we have the tourism sector. So these thresholds are not for all the sectors, but only for the codes of good practice. Now I'm going to move forward to the third kind of company we have in South Africa, which is a large entity, 50 million and above. Now, the codes make it clear whether the company is black owned or not. You have to go and do all 5 elements, B elements. Now, this way things start getting complex a little bit. Now, in front of you, I have the elements in front of you, and I've also shown them in terms of the QSE. So if you look at BE didn't start now. It started long time ago. And through the years, it improves based on how the nation views it. Because if you notice, back then we used to have 7 elements. Now, after consultations that were done between consultants and the government, it went on to 5 elements. So I've highlighted the elements that were merged together in order for us to get the 5 current elements that we have now. So you have the codes, the points for the generic scorecard, and you have the points for the QSE. Now, as part of talking about the BEE, the government went ahead and said, we will have 3 priority elements, which are currently the ownership, skills development, enterprise, and supply development. So these 3 priority elements clearly means that if a company does not reach a minimum targets for those elements, the company will be discounted 1 level. Now, what is 1 level down? It means that if a company was able to reach a level 4, they will be dropped down to a level 5. So as part of the presentation, I made elements here and the targets that are there for the companies to be compliant. So when we go there to consult, when we go there to tell these big companies that they need to do BEE, they will come back to us and say, but the targets are unfair to us, especially when we talk about white folks. I once had a client who actually told me that they got retrenched because of BEE, which after a long conversation with the gentleman, we realized that it was not because of BEE, it was because of the age. Anyway, so as we go on, we're going to talk about your ownership. So ownership is there. Ownership is 25 points. However, the codes do not in any way force a company to be more than 25 plus 1 vote black owned. They say in order for you to get full maximum points on ownership, you need to be 25% plus 1 vote black owned. And alternatively, if you want the full points, you need to be also have 10% black female owned. So when I started this presentation, I went back and showed everyone the stats that comes from, the stats that come from States SA. If you look at it from our perspective, if you look at it from the perspective of States SA, BE goes and say, we are asking for 25% plus 1 vote to be black owned. However, if you notice the majority of South African black is more than 90%. So can we say that these codes are very accommodative to everyone? If not, they're accommodative to everyone. Let's put it like that. Now we go and look at that is from your ownership perspective. Now let's move to your management control. Under management control, we have your board participation. It goes and says we need 50% of your board to be black people, black male. Let's say black people. Then 25% it needs to be black female. Again, when you look at these stats, you need to go back to Stats SA and say, does it make sense? Is it accommodating enough? Guys, apologies for this. I'm getting reports that my slide is not going any further. Please hold on. Ladies and gentlemen, sorry about that. I'm gonna resume where we have started. Where I was in terms of management control. Apologies, I was not aware that the slide was not moving. I'm advised to go back to the AP targets. So after the AP targets, I'm gonna just show the slide for your QSC and EMEs quickly so that you can have a glance of what I was talking about. What I'm gonna do, I'm also gonna move to the next slide, whereby it will show about the large enterprises, the generics. Then we're gonna move to the elements, whereby we spoke about the elements that previously there were 7, now there are 5. From the whole scorecard, you have 120 points. Then we move on, we talk about the priority elements. I explained that skills development, ownership, skills development, enterprise and supply development, those are your priority elements, meaning that you have to get the sub-minimum in order for you not to be discounted. Now I'm gonna quickly move to the slide where I was at. Now we were talking about your management control. Now, management control, again, as I was saying, that it looks at your 50% black person and 25% black female. Now, if you look at those stats and you go back to the EAP target stats that we spoke about in the beginning of the presentation, you will see that the BE codes make it easier for companies to comply with their requirements, with what the targets are set there. Because if the B is gonna say we need only 50% in order for you to get the full points, whereby the stats complete show that the country has more than 90% of black people, then we can, in conclusion, say that the B codes are accommodative when it comes to the targets. So we're gonna move ahead, and you're gonna look at your other executive management, your senior management. Now, I wanna break down the senior management, middle management, and junior management. The part of the reason why we also shared the EAP targets was the fact that when you look at your management control, there are 2 parts of management control. We have the board participation and other executive management, whereby when we look at those, we do not look at EAP targets. We do not look at your Indian colors or Africans as different groups, but it sees them as black. Now, if you look at the second part of management control, it talks about your EAP targets. That will be your senior, middle, and junior management. So in front of you, they have written a target of 60% black people, 60% black people, and 30% black female. If you look at the 60% there, when it talks about black people, it is broken down to accommodate each and every black race, Indian, colored, and African. It also goes on, the 60%, break it down in terms of, if we're saying that these black people must be in this race, we also want a percentage in terms of their genders, male and female. So the next slide will only focus on the top part of the 60% of black people. So your target is 60% of black people. Now, if you look it down, it gets broken down based on the states of South Africa. So now we look at, say, from the 60% that the B codes are saying, break it down based on the states, the 90% that the government has asked us to put in terms of BEE. You'll find for African male is 28%, African female 23%, colored male 3%, Indian male 1.19%. So this stats gives us a clear view of saying that as much as we're saying that it's 60 for black, it's not only for black, but when we talk about black, it's a generic term of African, colored, Indian, and so on. And it goes on because this BEE legislation does not take sides. It says we want to put it based on the genders as well. Now, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go back to the adjusted EAP targets. I want to show you something, a little bit of something that is there. It's the second adjustment that covers black women. So aside from this 60% that is saying for black people, when it talks about African male, African female, Indian male, Indian male, it also goes and says, let's find a target for black female alone. So if you come up here and look at the target for black female, it says it's 30%. Now, we're gonna go back to the adjusted EAP targets. we have the second adjusted EAK targets there, which shows that BEE is there for everyone, whether you are black male, black female, and so on. It gives you that power. Now, when we talk about BEE, a lot of white people will come and say, but BEE does not accommodate us. I want to disagree. I want to differ. Why? I want to disagree because the BEE target says 60% of senior managers must be black. And by that black, we are mentioning your Indian, colors, and Africans. So where is the rest of the 40% going to? So those are the questions that going forward, we need to pose to people out there who do not understand how the BEE is set in terms of targets. I'm going to move down to the second one. The second one is middle management. The main target there is 75% of black people, everyone. Then it have another 38% for black females. So it says black people, including everyone. It means African male, African female, Indian female. When it talks about black female, it only talks about the females. Then also on management control, it also gives you points for having disabled employees, whereby if you have disabled employees within the entity and you are accommodating them, it allows you to go and claim the 2 bonus points. So when you look at BEE, it is not only catering for black people, but also catering for disabled people. Then after that, those are the targets for management control that I wanted to break down for you guys. Now let's talk about the skills development, the elephant in the room. Now on my first or second slide, we talk about the government's viewpoint, and we said government realized that we need a vast improvement of our education system. In 2018, if I'm not mistaken, at Riverside, Mr. Ramaphosa introduced the 2.5% on higher education. See, what the government did, it looked at the first initial target, which was 6%, and says instead of us adding additional money for the business to make it impossible for them, let's break this 6% and say we need 2.5% to be directed exactly to your higher education, meaning that they also want to combat the thing of fees must fall, whereby people are not able to pay their fees. Now, the only thing that we might have as consultant or we might have different opinion on is how it is the higher education funds are being implemented. Because now what we've noticed in the industry, these funds are being given to big companies whereby they do not go to the core people whereby they were meant for. Anyway, that's a topic for another day. Now, there's a skills development matrix called Annexure 300. Then Annexure 300 gives you all types of skills development that you can do from category A to category F. It also includes your indirect spend, meaning that you can take someone to school, also pay for their accommodation, and also pay their books, get everything recognized. Then we talk about informal training on the job in terms of skills development. That was limited to 15%. With the adjustment, it is now 25%. Now they're saying that with your people that are coming to work, give them the enough skills that they need in order for them to do that work. Now, we're also going to talk about your SDF, your accommodation, so on. I think I've mentioned this. So your skills development also caters, like I mentioned, in terms of the Annexure 300, it takes up caters for your bursaries, your learnerships, and so on, your apprenticeship. So there's no way whereby a company can say and sit down and say, I do not have anyone that I can take for skills development. Because it says if you do not have employees that are interested in going to school, you can also look at their kids, they have kids. Alternatively, go outside of the organization. But we are asking that the skills development are implemented. This will improve our education system. Aside from that, it's easy when someone is coming to do an interview whereby they have been given enough skills development. Enough skills. There was enough skills transfer, whether it was formalized or not formalized. Then I'm going to move to my next slide there. Now, if I want us to look at the slide above here, it talks about the 3.5. The 3.5, again, it gets broken The reason why I wanted to show the importance of this breaking down, I want to go out there because, you know, this social media whereby people are fighting against BE, people are fighting against each other saying that, no, BE doesn't cater for this race. There's no such thing. Again, I've made it clear, African male, colored male, Indian male, African male, African female, colored female, and Indian female. It gives a clear understanding, a clear breakdown of saying the 3.5%, this is how it's going to be breaking down. 1.66% needs to be African male. The 0.20% is colored male. These numbers are based on the stats, are based on what the stats SA give us. We do not make up numbers, guys. We look at what stats gives us. Then we also look at the breakdown of the 2.5. It also caters for everyone. Now, if you look at this now, it says non-black and there's no spend. Someone's gonna say, yeah, what about people that are non-black? I'm gonna go back to the original 6% and say, it says 6% can be used for African people. It doesn't stop the company to go over and above the 6%. Because now you have a white company saying, yeah, but your BEE codes do not cater for my white comrades. But we're coming back and saying, but remember, we're not saying that you must only train black people. We are going out there and saying, at least this target must be for black people. Then I'm gonna move on to the next slide, which is the enterprise and supply development. But here I want us to focus on the procurement point, on the procurement part, the targets. Now, they're saying, in terms of your procurement, this is where you buy. They're saying that go and buy 80% of your procurement from companies that are South African. No, from companies that are compliant. Let's get away from South Africa. Compliant companies. Whether you are level 8 or level 1, you are compliant. So go and buy from companies that are compliant so that you can get your 5%. 5 points. And you know what I like about the code? As much as the target is 80%, even if you get less than 80%, they do a product calculation and give you enough points for you to get what you deserve. So now, if we're saying that all companies, we want you to spend from 80% of your procurement with all companies that are compliant, the codes are not forcing anyone to go and buy from black-owned companies. They're not. 80%, and even a company that is white-owned and ENE white-owned at a level 4, you can go and buy from them and get the recognition. And it also gives an allowance, saying, if you go and buy 15%, and I repeat, only 15% of your procurement from QSs, qualifying small enterprises, we are going to give you 3 points. And I like about the fact that under this qualifying small enterprises, it is not forcing any black ownership there, meaning that they cannot have any black ownership, but you will still get the recognition. Then we also look at your EMEs. Whether you have black ownership or not, the company will still get recognition from buying from suppliers that are like that. Then we move forward to your empowering suppliers. I put that word on purpose there. The reason why I talk about empowering suppliers, I remember when in 2015, when the codes were issued, they came out with the empowering supplier status, which had 5 conditions. A generic had to meet 3 conditions in order for them to get the empowering supplier status. And the QSE is it was 1 condition that to meet. Unfortunately, in 2016, we got a notice from the DTI stating that they will suspend the empowering supplier status. However, guys, suspending the empowering supplier status does not mean that it's not going to come back. It needs to be suspended, which gives us enough time to go and say, how do we look at these 5 criteria that we need to meet? How do we combat the 3 that will make us be an empowering supplier? That's why I always keep it on my presentation, so that going forward, we can always say that as much as we're moving and planning going forward, let's not forget that there's an empowering supplier status that needs to be met one way or another in the near future. Because what the government did, they did not cancel it, they did not cancel it, they only suspended it. Then also, if you look at your bonus points, we have 2 points from procurement from suppliers that are designated group suppliers. For designated group suppliers, there's a definition that you can find which explains the term of suppliers that they're referring to. The target, yet again, is 2%, and the point is 2%. Now, if you look at this, procurement is not supposed to be a struggle for you to get at least 40%, 40% of the total points, which is at least 10%. It's not a big deal. It doesn't have to be a big deal, because now procurement is people that you buy from. You have a procurement department which can sit down and look at companies that are compliant in order for you to procure from compliant suppliers and give you the maximum points. So I will move on to the next slide, whereby we are going to talk about the target. So I'm more concerned about targets, the target for that indicator. Now, if you look at your supply development, it talks about 2% of your net profit after tax. Now, what I like about supply development, not everything that you can do under monetary value under supply development has to be monetary value. Not everything has to be cash. Some of the things have to be non-monetary value. We are asking companies to go there, please, instead of just popping out money for the sake of BEE. We would like you guys to go and create programs whereby these small enterprises can be trained. We spoke about the ownership target, which is 25% plus one vote. When you go out there, when you present BEE, most of companies, they will complain about this ownership part. They will tell you that it's not easy for me to give away 25 plus one vote. But nowhere in the code says you must give them away. It says people must be sold those shares. We are going to sell the shares to people. We're not going to give people shares. The reason why I'm talking about ownership, I want to look at supply development as a redemption of saying that I have a company as a big entity, and I do not want to sell more than 25 plus 1%, or I do not want to sell more than 10% of my ownership points. Now I can make a difference as an entity by doing a supply development, which will enable one of my suppliers to become a black-owned company. So now, instead of just thinking that we can sell our shares to people in order for us to recognize black ownership, or if we have this need, if we see this view of saying that we are doing BEE in order to develop the country, then let us also focus on supply development. Let us focus on companies that are black-owned, that are struggling. And we know as big entities that we can move them, we can help them become more sufficient in the future. Not everything has to be monetary, like I said. We are asking companies, like, we will need tutoring. Can we ask for tutoring for these small blank companies? Now, the second one under enterprise and supply development is your enterprise development. That is 1% of your net profit after tax. Now, here the code clearly says that you must go and find a company that you have never worked with and develop them. And as I'm saying, if you look at this enterprise and supply development metrics, you will realize that not everything that has to be done in order for you to get the full points, they have to be monitored. There are other activities that can be done. Then there are bonus points that the codes give you. They say that if you have an enterprise, to go and create job employment, if they go and create job employment, whether it's one or more, you will get 1 bonus point. So they're also saying that go and do an extra. There are bonus points that they are offering. If you find an enterprise, and realize that you can develop these guys to be your supplier, that is another bonus point that the course actually gives us. So I'm gonna move to my similar slide, which is the socio-economic development. I will not push too much on this one, because this is like this 1% of your net profit after tax or indicative profit. We use your indicative profit if you have made a loss, or your net profit after tax is under the profit margin. So most companies, when it comes to these elements, they have their ducks in the row. They do their Mandela days. But we also emphasize that instead of you looking at these NGO companies, also look at your employees, these ones that are earning, I don't want to say peanuts, these ones that are not earning enough. Can we also look at developing them in terms of taking their kids to school, especially when you look at it from your grade 1 to grade 7. That will be the same as your socioeconomic development. I'm going to move to the next slide, which will ask questions. Any questions? I'll stop my slide.
Thank you so much, Dee, for your insightful breakdown on the whole overview of BBBEE. To everyone, please give me this opportunity to actually apologize. We were supposed to be joined by Mr. Sipho Klassen, CEO and founder of Boundless Consulting, but it seems like he will not be able to join us. So we can actually take this time to just jump to questions. Any questions you might have regarding the presentation we just got now, please let us know. If you wanna chime in or maybe type them in on the Q&A box, just do so, and then we'll take our time to answer those questions for you then. Thanks again, Dee. Thanks again, everyone.
No worries. Elected.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the questions. Mr. Rambau will elaborate more and give us more explanations and answers. For those that are struggling to actually push in the questions, there's that one tab there, not the chat, but the Q&A section there. That's where you submit your questions there, as we wait for Mr. Rambau.
Okay, I would like to answer the questions while I read them here. The first question that I'm looking at is from Anonymous in terms of how do you measure the different types of Black people from that specific percentage? So what happens is that the management control is made of, what do you call that? It's made of two parts of it. The first part is your board participation, executive directors and others in management. Unfortunately, when you look at those, the first part of management control, they do not use EAP targets, meaning that black is black and white is white. So they're not going to look at your African, Indian, or colored. So most companies get away in terms of that. And unfortunately, there's no legislation whereby it closes that gap by saying that as much as we are in executive management, can we please use the AP targets? However, if you look at the management, the other part of management control, it goes down and breaks it down and say, no. Let's break it down correctly. Then I also want to share my Excel here to Anonymous. Is the calculation in terms of your senior, junior, and executive management. I'm just gonna show just a little bit of the calculation on how we get to see the numbers and how the adjustment of the AP target. Please bear with me. Sorry about that. As I was saying that I opted to show the screen in front of you in terms of your management control. I wanted to show you the EAP targets and how they get adjusted. On my slide, there were a few errors in terms of the calculation, but I believe we're showing you it from the Excel, you will see the calculation directly. So what happens is that we take the information that we get from States SA for both all the classes, African, colored, Indian, and white people, which gives us 100%. However, when you look at this part, we say we are looking at your black people. So we discount the white people and focus on the target for white people. I mean for black people. And we adjust that, which is 92%. We adjust that to 100%. So now, initially, if you look at the African male on the States SA, it was 43.1%. Now we are looking at approximately, what do you call that? We are looking at approximately 46.7%. So that's where we got the stats. So now you take the EAP targets, you multiply it. Here's the target. Just give me a second. So we take the target here. We say the adjusted EAP target, which is 46.7%. I don't know if it's highlighted from your side. Multiply it by the target, the overall target that the codes have given us 60%. That's how we come down to break down the EAP targets. So now we say you say 46.7%, multiply by the 60%, it will give you 28%. So we have adjusted that part. And during my presentation, I also spoke about the second adjustment. Yeah, I emphasized it, or I emphasized a lot on it. The second adjustment was done for females. So if you look at the points here, the target here for the 30%, the first target is 60%, the second target for black female is 30%. Now it goes there and adjusts. It says now the second adjustment, which is 87.85%, multiplied by the 1 point that is there, the 1 point that is available there. Then we get the 26% for African male. We get the 2.29% for colored female, and also 0.70 for Indian female. Put them together, they give you the 30%. So I'm going to move to the management control, the first part of management control that is in the code. Now, when it comes to these ones, unfortunately, it does not have VAP targets. Now, that's where we see a lot of companies now looking away from, what do you call that? Looking away from our African brothers and only looking at your Chinese and so on, because the code does not close this bracket yet. It gives a leeway of saying that if you are African, Indian, colored, you will be seen as black. We're not going to break it down. I'm going to stop sharing now. I'm going to go to the next question. I have a question from Tulu Fellow. I'm going to jump to yours. Before I go to Tulu Fellow, I'm going to talk about Juanita's question. Unfortunately, Juanita, only the guys that organized this presentation can advise us on that one. Then I see Black as the same question. I'm going to move to the next one. The next one is Tulu Fellow. Is there any way of holding corporates accountable? Now, there is. Remember, we have the BEE Commission. So, guys, as much as you think that the BEE Commission is not working, the BEE Commission is working, and very hard. So there are companies that have been paying fines. There are people that are actually being investigated in terms of in terms of fronting, let's call it fronting, misrepresentation of your company's information. So there are companies that are being charged by the BEE Commissioner. Tulufelo, please, the BEE Commission office allows everyone to report. Please, if you have any issues, report them. Then net profit after tax. What if the company is making a loss? That is from Emma. So Emma, if the company is making a loss, the codes allow us to look at your indicative profit, and also it allows us to look at your profit margin. So your indicative profit will be your industry norm amount. We will look at your industry norm. What is your industry is making? What the percentage that your industry is making? A quarter of it will be multiplied to your turnover to determine how much you were supposed to make as a profit for that financial period. Unfortunately for us, there's no other way of running away from it. It's either when I use your net profit after tax, use your indicative profit, and also your profit margin as well. So normally in terms of consulting, we have a BE toolkit that allows us to calculate and see which figure we must use. So again, the indicative profit is not only for companies that are making a loss, but a company that is making a profit that is less than the industry norm. Then good. I'm gonna look at Mr. Ditlahiso. So Mr. Ditlahiso, there are companies out there which we call them incubators. So what incubators actually do, they go and source funds for companies such as you for yourself. Unfortunately for us, we do have companies, partners that we work with, partners that we've worked with, that we have recommended to our clients to go to. So there are these incubation hubs you can look at. I know, for instance, I know there's Race Corp is one of the ones that I know so far. So I'm going to move to Huawei Nova Y73. Will it not be easy if we give our email address for you to send the presentation? That, like I said, this is a conversation that we can have with the guys that actually organized this presentation for us. So I have anonymous here says, Ndivhuwo, are you saying that it's still fine that companies can still replace blacks with India's Chinese on executive positions? Anonymous, don't get me wrong. I did not say it was fine. There's nothing fine with misrepresenting your company's BE status. So I'm saying companies are doing that. We have to put a gray area with there. But remember, you are allowed to go and report them and ask why are we replacing our black. I don't want to say black, I want to say our African brothers from executive position with colors, Indians, and others. So those you can go to the BE Commission. You can go to the BE Commission commissioner and report those. I have an announcement. You say, from what I gathered, SA needs to be global business help desk to assist multinational GP. Anonymous, so you know what is happening there. So the reason why people think that B is failing is mainly because no one is out there telling the world what B is doing. It's not on the news. You see, we have a policy that is coming to doing wonders. I've been in this industry for 10 years. You have a company that is doing wonders. We have a policy that does wonders. And unfortunately, it gets attacked. It gets attacked by the same people that it is helping. I've had people that actually our clients gave bursaries to, learnerships to, go back and say B is not working. B is working. It just needs to be implemented right. We need the right people in the right offices. I think I've addressed all questions. You can send more questions if you have.
Okay, thank you so much, Dee, for answering the questions, and thank you for each and everyone who's been participating. While we are still waiting for more questions, possibly, I just want to answer the guys who've been asking for the slides and the presentations. For those that have responded, I've sent you our email. For those that need them, you can also leave us with your email address. We will try to share the whether it's the full presentation or maybe the slides that you specifically need. Just let us know, leave us your email addresses, and then we'll assist you with that after the session. Thank you so much. So guys, while we're still waiting for more questions. Okay, I see more questions are still coming in. Let me wait for Mr. Rambau to jump in and assist.
Hi, Tolofelo. I see another question. You say, is there a list of companies that provide ESD and what they are focused in? To be honest, there are, like I said, those companies, your incubation hubs that helps companies for in terms of going and source funds for them. Another thing is, especially as consultants, we try to what do you call that? Identify companies within a client supplier list to say, please work on these guys to actually help them better in terms of their quality, in terms of services or product that they give. So I'm not sure in terms of the list. I can put the question out there to my partners, my partners out there to say if they know of any list of companies that can provide that to provide us with.
Okay, it seems like that was possibly the last question I'm seeing here. I don't know if you were able to attend to anonymous attendee. Let me read up the question. It says, from what I have gathered, RSA needs B-BBEE Global Business Help Desk to assist multinationals in getting up to speed and even give them directory of businesses, colleges, and/or NPOs to streamline maintaining compliance, rather than Bo Elon being reluctant to understand because they are unable to easily do this outside of fronting. Ndi, what's your opinion on that question there by anonymous attendee?
See, the problem here with B is that it needs to be done inside. It needs to be done by us. You know, it's always saying that if you're gonna implement something for black people, let the black people run the show. I'm not saying this in a bad way because we get to understand this better. Instead of us doing this for profit, we do B because we understand the background of where we come from. So getting someone from outside to come through and say that they're gonna assist us in terms of implementing a policy that was made for us by us is another story. So that's what I'm gonna say in terms of this question.
Okay, no problem, and thank you so much for chiming in on that one. I see Sulufelo also has a question. Let me just help address it. So with ESD is part of an element on the BBBEE framework. Yes, ma'am, there are companies that are actually willing to empower their suppliers or other companies, small businesses with programs under ESD. So if ever, I know with a lot of companies do list it on their website. So just take your time, go to Google and check which companies are in and around the country that actually do participate in ESD programs. Whilst we are also BBBEE consultants, there are also companies that are consulting other companies on actually how to participate and implement ESG strategies. So you can also look for those companies like that. I think the company that can come to mind right at the moment is the companies like Ndivhuwo, which is a very good starting point if you're ever looking to apply for ESD. The other question is, can we get Ndivhuwo's contact details? Yes. I hope you are okay, Ndi, with maybe giving out your email address, but you can also send your queries to info@econobee.co.za for more assistance and more answers to your queries. Ndi, before you go, I see there's a Mr. Mishak Mahlangu asking a question. What can we tell other compliant companies? What are the most important points to note as they consider their participation?
Okay. Thank you, Matimu. I'm gonna start with Anonymous here. He asked if do you also assist companies with employment equity? Anonymous, yes, we do. We have a branch that actually focuses on that. We have a team that works on the employment equity segment. Then Mr. Mahlangu de Mishak, you ask about what can we tell other non-compliant companies are the most important points to note as they consider the participation. Okay, so Mr. Mishak, you know, BE is a legislation, a very good legislation. However, it's not a must. Unlike your other legislation, such as your Employment Equity Skills Development or Acts, B is not a must. B is voluntary. But first of all, when you actually talking about with companies that are non-compliant, first of all, they need to look at the companies that they work with, their suppliers, because most likely their suppliers are the ones that are going to ask for the B certificate. Second of all, is they are doing any government tenders. If you have a good B scorecard, you are most likely going to get the business. And another thing, again, I'm going to go back to their clients and suppliers. Remember that because we live in this BE world, your suppliers are making decisions based on your BE scorecard. They also want to be compliant. Okay, back to Anonymous. I'm looking at your comment. Thank you for that clarity. Then we have Gabaza there who says if a company is not following through with their 5-year EE plan. So in terms of the EE, it's a different ball game because now the Department of Labor gets involved. Unlike us with BEE, the only thing we can do is complain to the commissioner, try to get companies to do BEE and do transformation based on the fact that they might do business with the government or their suppliers are looking for their B certificate. On the EE plan, it's different because the government gets to act. There are companies that have been that have been fined 10% of their annual turnover due to the fact of not compliant with the EE plan. There are companies that still being fined as we speak. So in terms of that, only the government can assist us. I hope I addressed your questions.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dee. I am not sure if that was the last question we have, but it seems like it. And we are also out of time. But I would like to thank each and everyone who managed to join us today from your homes, from your work desk, or anywhere you are actually joining us from. I'd like to also thank Dee for a very insightful session. I hope it opened other people's eyes that it has mine. For today on BE, I think this is the time to actually close down the session. Thank you so much, guys. I hope we do stay connected. If you have any questions, for those who've left their email addresses, we will get in touch with you and address whatever question you might be having. If you have comments you want to give us, we will share our email address as well. But thank you guys so much. Have a lovely Monday and a productive week ahead. Enjoy. Thank you.